So now we're going to look at another important topic, that is abstract. Now, what are abstract classes? Now, abstract is basically a keyword that we can use with a class as well as a method. And it's been asked a lot of time in interviews, what is the difference between abstract class and an interface, right? What is interface? We haven't studied about it yet. We will be covering it in our next lecture, right? But abstraction is basically a design concept on which we only declare functionality, but we don't define it, right? Because we don't know about the functionality at the time we are designing it, right? It is if I refer to something like let's say we are creating, when WebDriver was created, let's assume that WebDriver was a class, although it's an interface. But let's take an example. Let's say it was a class. Right now, in WebDriver, a number of things we can do while automating a website. We can click on an element. We can type. For typing, there's a method called as send keys, right? We can get the title. Now every browser has its own implementation, right? We may use the same method for Firefox, we may use the same method for Chrome, we may use the same method for Safari. So at the time of designing the class, we're not clear about how this will be implemented by Firefox, how this will be implemented by Chrome, because all browser has its own implementation, right? The compilers for all the browsers are different. So the way we will be clicking on Firefox may not be the same way we will be clicking on Chrome, right? So this is on the technical end, right? On the coding end. So how Chrome browser API is performing, how Firefox browser API is performing. So both execution will be different for the click method, for the type method, for all other methods. So at the time of implementing these methods, right, we are not clear about the implementation. So we generally create those methods as abstract methods. An abstract method does not have any definition. So if you take a look over here, so abstract, it's basically a keyword, a special keyword which is used as a non-access modifier with class and method. So this is basically abstract is only used with class and methods, right? An abstract keyword with class, if any class has this abstract keyword, then no one can instantiate that class. Means no one can create an object of that class. If any class is having a keyword abstract, you cannot create an object of that class, right? And these classes are called as abstract classes. Similarly, abstract keyword with methods, if we talk about abstract keyword with the method, the functions, if abstract keyword is used with the method, then it must be overwritten in first concrete class. Now what is a concrete class? Concrete class is basically a class where you can create an object of that class. So this is a difference in abstract class versus a concrete class. The classes which cannot be instantiated, where we cannot create an object of that class, are called as abstract class, and concrete class are those classes which can be instantiated, right, where we can create objects for those class. Now in case of abstraction, the first concrete class will be the immediate child class of that abstract class, right? So here as well, when we are working on polymorphism, right, the inheritance should exist, then only the polymorphism uh, can be achieved, right? So concrete class will be the very first concrete class will be the very first child class of that abstract class. So far, whatever classes that we have seen or we have created, all were the concrete classes, because we were able to create an object of those classes, right? So it is again mandatory that the first concrete or the first child class, which is actually extending the abstract class, must define all the abstract methods inside that class, right? So must override basically. So all the methods which are there in the abstract class must be overridden inside the very first child class. This is mandatory. Now let us talk about some of the properties of abstract method. So abstract method is basically a method that does not contains any body. Right. So does not contains any body means you cannot add a curly braces with the method name, and you cannot write any definition inside it. It must be without any body. Right. And it must be overridden inside the first concrete class. This we have already studied. We'll be seeing this thing practically as well. Right. Now, some of the properties like abstract class should use the keyword abstract. So whenever you're creating an abstract class, it should be prefixed with that abstract keyword. And in declaration, it must be without body. Declaration, as in like the methods that we will be declaring, must be without the body. So the class of the abstract method must be an abstract class. So if you are creating an abstract method, you cannot create them in a concrete class. The class has to be abstract if there are abstract methods inside that class. Right? So abstract method cannot be declared inside a concrete class. The abstract method must be overridden by first concrete class, which extends that abstract class. So let us look at this practically. What I'll do, I'll create a new package, and I'll name it as abstract class. Right. Now, let's say I'm going to copy this class and paste it over here. So the drawback in overriding is that if a child missed to override any method of a parent class, right? Then what happened? The method, the functionality of a parent class will be called, right? So in order to avoid that situation, we create methods as abstract methods. So if a method is declared as an abstract method, so class has to be declared as an abstract class. So any class that will gonna inherit that class, so forcefully it has to override all the methods that are declared that are actually created inside that class, those abstract methods basically. Now what I'm gonna do, I'll gonna declare this method as a abstract method. Now as soon as I do it, you'll see that I got some error over here that abstract methods do not specify a body. So what I need to do, I need to remove the body from here. And then I need to create same thing for other methods as well. And I'll be removing the body from all the methods. Now again we are getting some error. The abstract method like can only be defined by an abstract class. So now it is saying that define the class as well as abstract. So we need to add a keyword along with the class name. And now you can see all the errors are gone. Now again, it is possible that this class may have a method that is a concrete method, right? So I can create another method, let's say capture screenshot with a definition. And it may happen that this class may have all the methods as concrete method, right? And no abstract method. This is possible. An abstract class can have complete abstract methods, or can have some abstract and some concrete method, or can have all the methods as concrete as well. So this is possible with abstract class. But if we have all the methods as concrete, then there is no reason, no logical reason to create a class as an abstract class, right? Because generally we create abstract class when it has got some abstract methods inside it. So this is an important interview question as well, that what is the difference in abstract class and an interface. In interface, all the methods are by default abstract, right? The complete thing in interface is an abstract, right? Whereas in case of abstract class, it depends on developer that how much abstract he wants to create, how much functionality abstract he wants to create. So this is the main difference. Abstract class can have concrete methods as well as abstract methods, whereas in case of interface, all the methods are abstract in nature. So for the timing, let us just keep all methods as abstract inside this class. Now, as soon as I create another class and try to inherit this class, let's say I created a class called as Firefox driver, and I'll try to inherit this, I'll say extends web driver. So as soon as I try to inherit this class, you can see I got some error over here at the compile time itself. So it says the Firefox driver class must implement the inherit abstract methods of, although it is showing one method over here, but if you click on add unimplemented methods, you're going to see all the methods are added over here with an annotation called as @override. Normally, if you don't write this annotation, then also it will gonna work. But with the help of this annotation, we're gonna come to know, okay, this is an overridden method. This is coming from overridden from some parent class, which is extended by this child class. So just make a habit, if you are actually overriding a method, add this @override annotation. Now it is mandatory to override just an abstract method. If there are concrete methods as well inside this class, it's not mandatory to override them. So the class is not throwing any error. It means if I remove this get title, this is an abstract method, the class will throw an error. So we need to just implement only and only the abstract method. So it's not mandatory to override the concrete method from the abstract class. Now, this thing is applicable only to the first level of inheritance. As in, like if I create another class as, like let's say Chrome driver class, which will also going to extend the abstract class, that is WebDriver, right? So WebDriver will be the parent class and Chrome driver is the first level child class. Now you can see we need to add all unimplemented methods over here as well. But what if there is a child class which is a child to Firefox driver? So let's say child Firefox, and now if it extends Firefox driver, then you won't get any error. So abstract class is applicable, like we studied over here, that the abstract class, the abstract keyword is used with methods, then it must be overridden in the first concrete class only, right? So first level of concrete class was the Chrome driver class and the Firefox driver class, right? Now what if I create Firefox driver class as an abstract class as well, right? So this rule is only for the concrete class, that the first concrete class should override all the methods. If I remove all the methods from here, I'll start getting errors, right? But what if I create this as an abstract class as well? Now you won't face any issues. But if I save this, the child Firefox is the first concrete class in this hierarchy. Now here you need to implement all these unimplemented methods. Right, so these are some of the rules that you need to, it needs to be clear when you're working with abstract class or interfaces. So in every hierarchy, the first concrete child must override the abstract methods, right? So this is the same hierarchy tree that we discussed when we were discussing about inheritance. Now, let's say if I go to this Firefox driver class, right now there are no abstract method. This child Firefox class is actually overriding the abstract method from the initial class, that is the initial class in the hierarchy, initial abstract, that is WebDriver class over here, right? Now, what if I create an abstract method over here in Firefox as well? Let's say method with the name let's say something related to Firefox, we can say uh, get Firefox instance, something like this. If I create an abstract method over here as well, abstract, I can create abstract methods inside the child abstract class as well, right? So in abstract classes as well, the inheritance is possible. So if I save it, you can see this child has to override all the methods from WebDriver as well as from the current parent class as well. So it has to override this method as well, right? So why this thing is important, and like practically how these things will be used. Let's assume that the web driver, when the developer were creating a web driver, they thought of that there should be a functionality for clicking, for typing, for doing a number of operations on a website, right? Now, all the browsers, while implementing these functionality, they will never gonna miss any functionality, because as soon as they extend the abstract class, they actually need to implement all inherited, all abstract method from this inherited class, right? So they'll never gonna there's no chance that they will miss to add a functionality for send keys, or they will miss to add a functionality for getting the title. So whichever browser class implementation will be done, they have to implement the functionality for all the methods, right? If we don't create it abstract, then no matter if a class is extending a parent class, it may or may not override the method, right? But in case of abstract, it is mandatory for a child class to override all the methods from the abstract class. Now, the other thing that we were discussing about is we cannot create an object of an abstract class. Like this web driver is an abstract class. So what I'm gonna do, I'll create a new class over here, test. Now I cannot, let me create a main method as well over here. So I cannot say new web driver. It won't allow me. Right, see, I'll gonna get an error. Cannot instantiate the type WebDriver because it is an abstract. But if I'm not able to create an object of this abstract class, then you remember we have kept some non-abstract method as well over here, some concrete methods as well over here. Then how are we going to call those methods? How are we going to call this capture screenshot? This is defined over here inside this WebDriver class itself. Right, this is one of the interview question. So how can we call a concrete method from an abstract class? And the answer to this is with the help of inheritance only. We can extend this class, and we can call it by creating the object of a child class, right? So if in case you want to call it, the child class will be this. So you need to create an object of child Firefox C equal to new child Firefox, and with the help of C dot, you should be able to call the method, that is capture screenshot. So this was the method capture screenshot. So with the help of child class, we will be able to call the method, the concrete methods of an abstract class. Now, why exactly Java has stopped creating the object of an abstract class? Why we are not allowed to create an object of an abstract class? Let's say Java has allowed you to create an object of a abstract class. So if you create an object of this WebDriver class, and if you call the method click, then what will happen? There is no definition inside click. There is no definition inside send keys. What will it gonna do? That is the reason forcefully Java had stopped creating the object of abstract class. In Java, you cannot create an object of abstract class, right? So this is the main reason. Now, the other thing, when you'll start working on some APIs like WebDriver or Appium or any of the third-party API, you may see that when we create an object of, let's say, the child class, like we have created over here, the reference that is actually given is of the parent class, right? Something like this. So as we know, we cannot create an object of WebDriver class. So we are not creating an object of WebDriver class over here. This is an abstract class, right? So we are just creating a type, and with the type, we should be able to call what all methods that are there inside. What all abstract methods that we have actually created, we should be able to call all the methods. But let's say if there is any method that is created inside a child class. So let's say I'm going to create a method public void child method, something like this. And you should be able to call this method with when you have created an object and the type references of a child class only, c dot child method, right? But if you create an object, if you create a reference of the parent class, so with a polymorphic reference, you remember you will not be able to call the method of a child class. So it will not going to come in the list. So these are the things that you need to make sure. Right, with a polymorphic reference, you should be able to call all the common methods which are there inside the parent class, right, but not the child class, right? So that is what your abstract class is. So normally, as an automation tester, you may not be creating abstract classes or interfaces, but you will be using them, right? And you'll be using them a lot. So as a developer, they create interfaces, they create abstract class, right? So OOPS basically tells how we are actually designing the project, right? Basic, if, else, loops, arrays, right? These are your core Java basics, right? Basics as in these are the logics. The logics are actually implemented through these concepts. But the design is actually implemented through the OOPS concept, right? So all these polymorphism, overloading, overriding, inheritance, these are very important part of OOPS concepts, which one must should be familiar with, right? So in the next lecture, we're going to look at what interfaces are and how we're going to define them and how we're going to use them. All right.